Hello, Mountain View School District. My name is Todd Fisk. I'm your superintendent, and I'm going to share over the next number of minutes information regarding the levy, the importance of a levy every year for our school district. Hopefully it'll generate a lot of information and fact for you as we move forward. Thanks for taking the time to watch. The first part that I want to go through is just talking about some of the general questions that I receive. I've had a lot of input over the last number of months, reasons why the levy has failed in the past, what can we do to move that levy forward so that we can have success, give some examples of the Idaho funding model, how forest funds impact our particular district, what would be necessary cuts, if the levy failed, what will be some of the things that obviously the levy continues to support. So I hope to kind of capsulize all of that as you take some time to watch this. So some of the particular pieces around supporting education. One of the mantras is strong schools equal strong communities. Things that I've been sharing with community members that we have to have a strong reliance on the importance of our schools and our communities. All of the things that those equate to, strong job workforce, so strong reasons for parents and families wanting to look to relocate to our areas, and also attracting those best educators that we can have in front of our children. So one of the questions is, what is a supplemental levy? Why do we have to have it every year? And that is how it's been framed by the legislature for many, many years in the state of Idaho. A levy is a supplemental request for dollars to help in the general fund to meet all of the obligations of running what I call an A grade education for our students. A levy is a one-year supplemental levy. It goes away. They do not build on themselves. It's important to note that about 70% of funding comes from our state, and the other 25 to 30% of funding comes from local control. And so that is how it's framed. It's not a Mountain View School District type of funding model. It is the state funding model that we live within. And it's important to note that each and every year, our communities have to actually show the support and pride necessary to pass levies to keep schools functioning at that high level. So a lot of people ask me, what is the levy for? Can we get more information about what does a levy do for our district? A levy supports nearly every aspect of the educational programming at Mountain View School District, as it does for every school district in the state of Idaho. It helps support our extracurricular activities. It helps support teacher retention, teacher growth, all subject areas from curriculum to extracurricular activities are all impacted in some way and supported through levy dollars. So a lot of input, or a lot of people ask me, what are some of the levy constraints if it fails? What would be the cuts? This is a real difficult question, obviously, to answer, because there needs to be a lot of work and focus on certain programming that is certainly mandated by the state, and also other impacts of what programming that we must have within the walls of each of our schools to meet those standards set by the state. And so it's not just as an easy, we're going to cut X, Y, and Z immediately. There could be a lot of different facets that have to be cut. Right now, we have experienced many, many cuts within the walls of our school. And at times I worry that our public doesn't obviously see all of those particular cuts. Elective course offerings, advanced placement offerings, dual credit offerings have all been cut in a really major way in all of our buildings. These are direct impacts to our students by a failure of a levy. Although we don't always see those particular impacts on the outside, but there are some great ones that are impacting us on the inside. The other particular pieces that failed levies actually come to fruition is the erosion of those pillars in our community. It'll take a lot of time, but over time, when we have failure in our schools and supports, we'll see a slow erosion of other impacts to our communities. The other particular piece that's real important, that we have to provide a strong support of education, and that requires obviously passing a levy each and every year. So what are some of the cuts? Some of the cuts would be a lot of work with the board administrative teams, trying to really make the best decisions possible for the lowest impact to kids without dollars to support. So forest funds have been set aside for maintenance on our buildings. Out of the SRS funds or forest funds, and some of these words are exchanged together, have been met from the transportation end of things, roads, bridges, those types of things, but there's also a piece that goes to our schools. And the tagline is you can use them for maintenance in your particular buildings or on your buildings. We, over the last number of years as a Mountain View School District, have taken some of those forest funds and bought down, if you will, or drove down the levy amount, the true levy amount of what was really needed to be asked for was masked by bringing down that amount by the use of forest funds. Therefore, maintenance issues on our buildings got placed off to the side, and we're not ever able to be completely checked off the list, if you will, to get completed. So forest funds have been really a pretty good gift for our district over the years. Mountain View School District has not passed a levy where we haven't used forest funds to buy down the levy. This answers one of the questions for people have asked me about why has a levy failed, or why did the levy fail last year? And one of those direct reasons is the board had decided to ask for the actual levy amount without the buy down of forest funds to be able to use forest fund dollars for what they were intended for maintenance of our buildings. This gets into the question that many people need to take the time to think about the maintenance on our buildings. We're in our 61st year of our two high schools, if you will, from Kooskia to Grangeville. What is the length of time that you think the life expectancy is of these buildings? Are they 100-year-old buildings? I just ask you to think about that. If we've used up 61% of their life, there is going to be massive maintenance that is going to be required on all of these buildings. The upgrades of roofs, upgrades of heating and cooling systems, the list goes on. Things are just going to start to wear out. And this is becoming a challenge for us to start to upgrade or update those particular areas. I ask the question to everybody that in 40 years, what will these buildings look like? I obviously won't be here talking to you about this, but there will be a group of people that will have to follow the work that's being done now and be asking those questions and then having to answer them. So there are things that need to get done and things that need to be updated, and the forest funds could be a really great revenue avenue to get those things done. So that has been the balance. And this year, with the board deciding on a $3.1 million levy, I think that the particular piece was trying to be sensitive to all of the impacts due to COVID, which the school certainly has gone through and our community members have gone through, and getting it back on track. That we cannot have multiple levy failures and still continue to try and be successful as a district. So I think it's important that I also share with you all about extra dollars that are coming in really through the state and federal programs. It is important that all schools in some way are going to see ARP funds, American Recovery Program. You've heard of CARES Act, ESSER 1, ESSER 2 funds. These are all funds that certainly have impacted our district in some way, and there's attachments to it. Folks have asked, Todd, why don't you just buy down the levy more with those particular dollars? And that's not how they work. There are really clear and precise ways we're able to spend those dollars, and most of them are generated and geared towards COVID-related impacts. In the beginning, nearly a year ago, 9 months ago, we were able to almost go one-to-one with all of our computers in our district. That has been a great thing for us. Those CARES dollars has helped us generate the revenue necessary when we more than likely never would have been able to ever get there. There's another round through the ARP funds that we'll see a large amount of money that's going to help us work on ventilation and heating systems. We can work towards things that could be COVID-related impacts for the health and safety of our students and staff. So it's important to note that, yeah, those dollars are coming in, but there are strings attached on how we can spend them. We just take from one fund and lower the other, and there will be specific things that we can work towards to spend them on, and that work is being done as we speak now. So a particular look back of question has been, why has the levy failed? Todd, what are some of the things that you have a sense for, not only to get our levy back on track to passing every year, but what were some of the implications last year? And I'll just share with you some of the things I have heard have obviously been COVID impacts, not having really good information to get out there, and I'm hoping to hurdle through that so that everybody is well informed. There's been some difficulty with negotiations, difficulty with board communications, all things that we're trying to rebuild in a real trustful and positive direction. I think that the other particular piece for levy failure is we really asked for a levy amount last year that did not involve any buy down from forest funds. And I said that earlier. So that gave a true representation at $3.9 million, where people were like, whoa, we have never really seen those types of numbers. Again, that was a number associated with not using forest funds to buy down the levy, but to keep those funds for what they were intended in maintenance. I think it's really important about how do we continue this circle of pride for our communities. You know, it is really important that the push of what our community represents in supporting education. This is something we have to do each and every year. We have to really come and ask our voters a way to support schools. And with that, what I continue to hear is, can we do that with diligence, build that trust back, and know that we're being good stewards of all of those dollars that impact our communities in a great way. So that is a circle of pride. This strong schools equals strong communities is something that I continue to push forward, and it'll kind of be the words for us to focus on moving forward. You know, per pupil expenditure in the state of Idaho is nearly right at the bottom in the United States. We expend about $7,800 a year per student in the state of Idaho. When you compare that to other areas, or Washington, Montana, Wyoming, Oregon, we are thousands of dollars lower per pupil expenditure than those other states that are putting out the same educational process we're doing. We're doing more with less. We're trying to do everything possible to be those great stewards of those tax dollars. But I ask you to kind of think about some comparisons of, for instance, what it takes to incarcerate a person in the state of Idaho. It's around $29,000 a year. A lot of those reasons for incarceration is poor or lack of strong education. There are lots of correlates around that, but I think it really draws a nice line to the fact that our investment into our students in the K-12 system is critical, not only for our communities, but for society as a whole. Cost of educating the student, what are the things that we do? Dropout prevention, special education, meeting Common Core, technology, upgrades, labs, curriculum, support staff, food service, transportation, obviously our teachers, lights, heat, all of those particular things in our building, textbooks, classroom supplies, and the necessary curriculum around strong character, anti-bullying programs, all of these particular pieces that help fit part of the puzzle to a well-rounded education. So obviously one of the big questions is, what will a levy cost? You know, at $3.1 million a year. The number is down. Understand that we initially talked about in our board work session around budgets was we really felt like the district needed $4.1 million to kind of run successfully in what I call that A or A- grade. I think in the end of the day, again, as I said earlier, the board recognized the sensitivity to our communities and all of the impacts that COVID has placed, and then came up with a number of 3.1. So at 3.1, this will be a slide that you should look out carefully, because each of you that might be watching this will have different values on your particular home. In that slide, it'll show what it costs yearly and monthly. But do understand that the taxable market value is not the value where you think that you would list your home for as a real estate price, but it is the taxable value that is set by the county assessor's office. And you also get to subtract the first 100,000, which is something, a statute that's put in place by the state of Idaho. So that's important to factor that in as well. Well, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to watch this. A lot of people have called, asked, given me supports. Some have said that they don't think they can still support things. I hope that the information around fact would help anybody propel them to understand what we're trying to do here at Mountain View School District, and that we're all in this for the long haul and for our communities far and wide. We're one of the largest school districts in the United States due to landmass, but we stretch long and far. And in that, what I've been learning over the last number of months is this real foundation of support from our community, a real belief in what education provides. Just take a ride any evening, certainly this time of the year, see the hub of these particular schools. Head down to CV High and see what's going on with track and baseball and tennis, and come up here to Grangeville and watch these kids. These schools are the hub, the center of their work and how they gather. It's healthy, it's productive. These are the particular pieces that provide so much value that doesn't get a data point attached to it. It is critical. This is critical need for us. You're welcome to reach out to me. You can find all this information right on our website where you see this is posted. You're welcome to certainly email me and ask any particular questions. There'll also be on the website an entire list of all of the community presentations I'll be doing. There'll be a large number of them. It'll basically be what you're watching on this today, but a little more opportunity for some questions and answers if you need to. So again, thanks for taking the time, and thank you for making these strong schools that equal strong communities. Thank you.